Hello, hello. Okay. I couldn't hear myself. Hello, audio check. Huh? Well, for better or worse, hello everyone. This is going to be an attempt to make a plain short sleeve shirt. During the summer months, I cannot wear a lot of the traditional homemade clothing that I have made all along because it's too warm. So sometimes I would have to resort to wearing non-homemade shirts for the hot months in the summertime. I would like to gradually replace those with lighter weight, simpler, mostly cotton or very lighter fabrics shirts I have made. And that's where I'm going to start right now. Right here we have some fairly simple plain fabrics. I'm going to show you on the desk camera. We got a little bit of orange, white, and yellow. Very simple, very plain. And it looks to me I'm going to have to make an adjustment to the camera on the desk. So hold on. Let's see. We move that so you can see the edge of the desk right about there. Oops. Now let's see. All right. I think that's going to be a little bit better. You can see what's going on. All right. Now, so we're going to start very simple and see how far we can go. Now, bear in mind, this is my first attempt with a lot of the new gear, and sometimes we've been having trouble with the sound. So I'm going to do a quick check on one of the streams. Let's see. Enable sound output. I'm going to listen to myself as I talk, and it looks like it sounds okay. Okay, so continuing on, what I'm going to do right here, actually, let's do this. I'm on the desk camera. So this is the pattern for a man's shirt, or a shirt of my size. This is the front of the shirt that you can see here. Actually, I'm going to change to the, that microphone's already on. But actually, let me back off on this. We just have the smaller microphone. So, this is the front. Okay. This is the, let me see if I can say, this is the collar. And this is the yoke. Okay. And this is the interfacing that would, that's opposite the front of the shirt at the, or the front. And this is the cuff for the sleeve. Won't be using that, but this is going to be a short sleeve shirt. This is the inside of the collar, and this is 1/2 of the back. So let's go ahead and start to do some cutting. I think probably be best to zoom the camera back as far as it can go. And I think it may very well be. Okay, there we are. All right, now actually I can move the camera up a little bit like so. Now the light, let's see, I'm going to try something. I'm not going to do anything. You know what? This is better without that overhead light. Now, you know what? You do need the light. Now, let's bring that tighter in like that. Nope, you can't do that either. Let's do this. Okay, something like that. Okay, now, let's do this. Let's make the front out of this yellow fabric. Now, I do want to point out, very important, before you do any sewing with any new fabric or unknown fabric, you need to wash it in the washing machine at least once. That is called pre-shrinking. In a previous video, I hope I did it, that I explained about an incident where I forgot to do that on a pair of shorts, and the shorts came out rather odd, and I wore them at work, and I was laughed at. But those kind of things happen. So let's see. I'm going to fold out the fabric. We have 2 layers of fabric here. 1, 2. Make sure we don't have a 3rd layer underneath. Get everything else out of the way. So we have 2 layers like that. Again, more or less lined up. We have to make 2 halves to the front. So, do there. Let's see. Okay, now this is the, now that's the back. Now this is the front. Now let's see, that's gonna come over a little bit. So let's get the other fabric out of the way for now. Bring this over like that. So here's the front right here. This is the pattern for the front. Now, by the way, on the patterns, I started with a paper pattern, and those don't last long at all. So I took some fabric that I had and made my own set of patterns out of the fabric, so I can use these to cut out a lot of pieces without it falling apart. So here's the front. Now, what we see here, this is the center of the front. This is not the edge of the front, because you have to go about 3/4 of an inch out to the edge of the front, but then you have the seam allowance, which is another 1/2 inch, because it's going to fold back on itself. So we're going to go out about 3/4, let's see, half, about 1.25 inches from here. So what we have here, I'm going to grab it right here. This is a rotary cutter. It does the same thing as a pair of scissors, but it is far easier and can be more accurate. So that, I just cut the shoulder. Now we're going to cut the sleeve opening like that. Then we're going to cut the collar opening, which is going to be something like this. And remember, we're going to go out an additional 1.25 inches, and I will just eyeball it. I'm not that fastidious on accuracy, because after all, if somebody looks at me from, 15 to 20 feet away on the street, they're not going to notice it's something 1/4, 1/2, or even a full inch off. I did a little experiment where I introduced a deliberate error of about 1/2 inch between 2 sides of a shirt. So the pattern was off by 1/2 inch. And I walked around and I asked people, what is the mistake that I made on this shirt? And they didn't know. They could not figure it out. And I pointed out what I deliberately did wrong. And they did not believe it. They did not believe that they were off. So you don't, in my opinion, I don't have to be very fastidious on how accurate my cuts are. Let's get that. Okay, let's see how that looks. It looks to me that this cutter is getting a little dull. There's some places that had missed. And I'm not surprised because I've used this a lot on many different materials. And it still hasn't cut right here. Alright, it's that. And let's see, it's a little bit there. Okay. Okay, we gotta set this. Okay, those are the front. Now let's take this, get rid of the scrap, like right here. We'll cut this off right here. And we're gonna cut it off right about here. This little bit can be thrown away. This is still good enough to be used somewhere else. So I'll put this aside, get it out of the way so I won't accidentally cut into it. Hold it, and we'll stash it over here. So now that we've cut this, the next thing we have to do to it is to run it through the serger. The serger is what prevents the unraveling of the edges. Now, serging the corners is not as critical because the diagonal to the seam will not fray as much as something parallel to the seam. So, a long curve I might do a little bit, but here it probably won't matter. So, what we're going to do now, we're going to go to a different microphone and a different different machine, camera. And what you see now, and hopefully everything's working here. Hello, one, yep. Okay, this is called a serger. It's an overlock machine. Let me run something through it and I'll show you what it does and why it's important. So I'm going to grab one of the sides of the front and put it in the machine. Now this is going to make a fair amount of noise. I'm not going to do much talking while it's running. The microphone has to be close to pick me up. So here we go. Okay, let me cut that off. Now, mind you, this is not a very good camera, but you can see the stitching is done over the edge to prevent the edge from fraying. That's why this is called an overlock machine. Now I'm going to run the serger on the bottom. Take that. This is up the outside. Okay. I'm doing the sleeve. Although the curves are normally not as critical, a long curve, especially the armhole, will have a fair amount that is close to being parallel to the weave of the fabric. That's where it can unravel. If it's a 45-degree angle cut, that will most likely not unravel. Now here is the shoulder. Now this is, again, fairly close to being parallel to the weave. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to skip the neck, but that will most likely unravel, and this will be folded under when when I put on the backing and I fold it under. So now we trim off the extra thread like that, and this one like that. Okay, we got another one. All right, so that is one half of the front. Okay, now do the same thing to the other side of the front. Okay. Skip the collar. Now we're doing the shoulder. Okay. Now this is probably one of the plainest or simplest shirts that I make. It's got no mosaics in the middle of it. When you do the mosaics and the patterns, that's what takes up a lot of time. And that's also generally because a lot of them are polyester and heavy polyester. The mosaic shirts are unfortunately too warm for the summertime. So I'm going to keep it simple, yet it's going to be colorful. This is going to have multiple colors to it before I am done. The front would be yellow. Maybe the collar would be, a blue or green, whatever I can find. The back would be another color, and the sleeve would be another color yet, and we're going to keep it that way. And being a simple shirt, I don't bother with pockets. Generally, I don't use shirt pockets all that often. And in my pants, I don't even bother with the back pockets of a pair of pants because those are what I call the pickpockets pockets. So any money or wallet goes into my front pockets of my pants, and I completely omit the back pockets. They serve no purpose for me. So there's that. Well, that's now the front. So let's go back to the cutting table. Okay, now here are the two pieces for the front. And let's do this. We're going to set these, for now we're going to set these aside like that. Next we're going to do the yoke. The yoke, if I remember how to do this right, come on now, go up, no, wrong one. Okay, I gotta remember. Okay, how do I do that? There we are. The yoke is this part of the shirt, the top of the back. But that's what I'm gonna do next. So let's grab the pattern for the yoke. So now we're done with the pattern for the front. So let's set that aside. Here, let's see, the yoke is right here. This is the yoke. Let's get everything else set aside. Oops, not that one. This is the yoke. Now, we're going to find a suitable fabric for the yoke. Keeping it simple, let's find a dark color if we have one. Or maybe a simple pattern. Let's see. Oh, let's see now. Okay. Oh boy. Let's see. What about that? Here, try the burgundy color here. Okay. So that's going to be right. These out of the way. Okay, that's going to be right there. Okay. So let's open this up. Now there's only one yolk, so we don't have to cut two halves of the yolk. So we're going to open this up like, let's see how we do this. Yeah, right here. Open this up like that. Put the pattern on top of it like that. Something like, like this. Then we'll cut it out. Okay. The first shirt I ever made was a very simple shirt, similar to this one, although it does have pockets, but I wanted to go all the way. That first shirt took close to 10 hours to make because I've never made a shirt before. Now, this shirt will probably go together in less than 3 hours. We'll see. Now, I started at 4 p.m. Pacific time today, and let's see how far we get today, and then it would take 2 to 3 hours to make this. Since this is plain, there's no fancy, intricate patterns in this shirt. Now, we just cut out the yoke. Now, I'll give you an example. The yoke of a previous shirt I made alone took about 9 hours because it was a mosaic of different fabrics, and I had made some mistakes on it, so it ended up not being symmetrical. And I love to have all my goodies symmetrical, not just random, but symmetrical. Sometimes I'll do something randomly just to be different, but most of my work is very symmetrical. Now, we cut out the yolk, as you can see. Okay, here's the yolk pattern, which, by the way, I'm going to set that aside. Here's the yolk. Now we're going to run this through the serger. So once again, we're going to go over to the serger. Oops, wrong. Let's see, wrong one. What did I do wrong? Oh, there we are. Okay, as you can see, I'm still getting used to all the different options for the cameras and the microphones and everything else. Hello, one. Yeah, that looks fine. So we're on the right microphone. In the past, when I did my sewing videos in the summertime, I relied on a single webcam microphone built into a very old laptop for the sound for the entire room, and it was terrible. Now I decided to invest in a decent sound system, multiple microphones with a small mixer. Each place where I work, like the serger, the sewing machine, and the cutting table, has its own dedicated microphone that can switch them off and on as needed. So they are much closer to where I'm sitting, and you only have that one microphone picking up sound locally instead of just a single laptop microphone trying to pick up from anywhere in the whole room. And that was a disaster. I also had a simple video switch, an HDMI video switch. It was a mechanical switch, and it would sometimes causes hangs in the image when it switched because it did not segue properly between two HDMI cameras. Now I've got a small Roland professional video switcher which is made for production, so it can do fades, switch and stuff like that without causing grief to the final video. Now, let's see now. So I've got this is the top. This is the back of the yoke where it meets the back of the shirt. Okay, there's the back. There is the side like that. Okay. All right. Let's see, I think that's it. See, all the pieces are cut. Oh, we got one more right here. Now, here we have the yoke. Okay, the yoke is done. Now we go back to the table. Okay, here is the yoke, and the way a shirt works, that's the yoke. Of course, let's see that, up like that. And here are the panels for the front. Now this is a simple color and no mosaics. It doesn't matter which side I use. Although I want to take the twill side and keep that on the outside. So here is how the, let's see, no, it meets this way. So here is the collar. Okay, and here is the sleeve. Okay, so we do that, and the other side is going to do the same thing, like that, okay? It's going to be something like this. Now let's see, is there a proper twill side to the yoke? There isn't. So I'm going to stitch it. This is the right side, this is the right side, and they're going to go together like this and be stitched. And what I do when I stitch these, I will start from the neck and go out. If there's any difference in the length, I want to take care of it at the outside edge and not the neck. So what we're going to do now, if I do this right, we're going to go to the sewing machine camera. Nope, not that one. First of all, we go to the correct microphone. And then we have to go to the computer to switch to the right camera, which is the right there. Okay, there is the sewing machine, and I'm going to take these over there. I'm going to set the other stuff aside. Okay. All right. Now, this is a Brother industrial sewing machine. So it's fairly heavy, and it's a walking needle machine. The needle walks along with the feed dog. That is great for very heavy fabric. For today's project, it's not as important, but I do a lot of work with heavy projects. So here, I'm going to double check. This is the neck of the yoke, and this is the neck of the shirt right here. And this is the good side, and it doesn't matter which side of the yoke, so we're going to keep the good sides together. We can match up the neck side like that. Get this thread. Oh, come on, don't tell me. It looks like we got a little bit tangled up here with the thread and the needle. Look at that. That looks like a set. Okay, now. All right, I think that looks like it's okay there. All right, now. Put these. That under there. Okay, the machine is got an automatic foot lifter. All you have to do is push the pedal backwards. You don't have to manually lift it with the lever back here like you do in most home sewing machines. It makes it really nice. It also does the back and forth to anchor the thread both at the beginning of the stitch and at the end of the stitch automatically. And at the end of the stitch, it has a knife, so it will cut most threads. Sometimes it's a very heavy thread, it may not cut it, but most of the time it will cut it. And what that means is that it takes a lot of the drudgery work away and lets me be creative. Okay, so here we are. Now there's a little bit here that did not get cut off. Okay, and we'll take care of that with the scissors if I can. Okay, so that's one side. I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to take the other side of the front like this. Get them together, but once again, double check. That's the good side of the front facing the collar. Okay. So let's get those together, something like that. Line them up as best as I can. And when I stitch, I leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm stitching 1/2 inch in from the edge. That allows me to fold the seam over and stitch a top stitch to keep the seam folded over, and that's how the seam is much more robust, being a double seam instead of a single seam. Just about all of my work is with a top stitch or a double seam. That's what I'm about to see. I'm done with this. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to, you can see it, take the seam and push it towards the darker color, like that. That way, when I put the top stitch on it, since I'm using black thread, you will not see the top stitch as readily as if I stitched the black thread onto the yellow. It's on the burgundy side of the seam. Now, as I stitch the top stitch, I pull these open as much as I can, because you notice I did not use an iron to press the seam. Many sewing books, especially for people who do sewing as a hobby, suggest that you use an iron to press the seam down. Clothing manufacturers don't do that. They rely on pulling this apart. It saves a lot of time, especially when it comes to manufacturing. I have learned that over the years, and now that I feel that I'm able to do it, I just go ahead and do that. If it is not as perfect as it could be if it were ironed or pressed, I don't care. What do we got going here? Come on. Okay, get that. Let it down. All right, do the other shoulder like that, holding it open. You notice I'm taking it slow. This being an industrial machine, it's a much faster machine if I floor it. But I don't do that. I take all my work slow. Now, let's go back to the table. We go back, open up this here. Now, here we are. Let's get these out of the way. Now, here's what we have so far. We have the collar. And the collar stitched to the front, as you can see. Now, and this is the collar. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try this on just to make sure the collar is large enough for me. So let's go ahead. There we are. put this on. This is about how it's going to look. Now obviously there's no buttons or anything else, and yes, the collar, bring the collar together. I have about 1.25 inches overlap, which is what I want. What I'm going to do now, just to provide strength or stiffness to the collar, I'm going to run a single stitch across here so it cannot be stretched. I'm going to be doing some activity which I'm going to be putting tension on the collar, and I don't want it to stretch and change dimensions. So, and serging it won't do any good with serging. All that does is prevent it from fraying. So I'm just going to do it. Go back to the machine. And we're just going to do a single stitch along the length of the collar. Whoops, something just happened. Now, I think we may have, it looks like we might have run out on the bobbin. Let me just check. Nope, bobbin looks okay. Sometime when you have a single layer of fabric, it tends to pull. That's where I've got to be careful. So that's what happened here. Let's cut that thread. Let's do that again. Whoops. Whoops. I accidentally hit the pedal, which caused the machine to think that it started the stitch. So I'm going to go ahead, cancel out. I have to re-thread the needle. All right, needle's been re-threaded. Start that again. Yeah, it looks like it's okay now. So we're just going to do a single stitch along. Whoops. What's going on here? Oh, it's too. It looks like the top is too. Tension is too much. What did I see? Let's see, still too much tension on the top. Oh, I know why. I was sewing plastic earlier, and that required a lot more tension on the top, on the top thread. Let's hope that that's okay. It didn't really get noticeable when I had multiple layers of thread, but doing a single layer, it can be noticeable. Let's check that. I think it's okay now. Okay, now. That looks pretty good. Double check the fit. Yeah, the fit is okay now. Okay, all right, that looks okay. Oh, I know what. Okay, there is one thing I'm going to do. When I was sewing the plastic, I had to use a lubricant in the thread. I don't need that now with the fabric. Let's take that off. Okay, now, collar is secured. Next step, we have to make the collar itself. Now, let's just check something here. I checked. Okay, let's go back to. Oops, we are on. Let's see. We're gonna go back to here now. I'm gonna check the length of the collar, which is 10 to 18 inches. Okay, the collar is 18 inches long, which is about right. Okay. Now, what we have to do now, this is the pattern piece. Let's set aside everything else. This is the pattern piece for the collar, okay? And let's make that out of, let's see what we can find. Throw it aside. Okay, let's use this pattern. It's a nice light floral pattern. We use this for the collar. Now the way the collar works, the collar is actually two pieces stitched back to provide stiffness. So let's take this fabric and fold it back to back like that. Let's see, I'm gonna change the microphone. All right, let's see. We got that. All right, the two layers of fabric. They're facing each other. Okay, so we're gonna cut this out of them like this. Okay. And we cut it out. Okay, that one, and this. All right. Okay, now, that takes care of the collar. We're going to take this fabric and put it away. The floral fabric we probably won't need any more in this project. We'll put that away. Now, the collar, we don't have to serge it because what's going to happen here, this is going to get stitched here. Now we got the good side. First of all, I want to show you the good side here is facing itself like that. We're going to stitch from here all the way up, around, and all the way down, but leave this open. Then we turn it inside out. Then we do a top stitch. Then, once we do that, then all we do is serge the bottom edge, to serge it closed, so it can be ready to be stitched on to the garment. So, we're going to take the collar pattern and set that aside. Okay? Now, we go back to the machine, which is right here with this microphone, like that. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to do one quick check, see if anyone's made any comments anywhere. So I'm going to, so bear with me. Hold on a minute. Okay, let's do a quick check. There you go. All right. Okay, that looks okay. Working. All right. Let's see now. Okay, and I'm going to now do a quick sanity check on the sound. All right. So I'm back at the machine now, and we're gonna stitch around the edge of the collar. So, okay, now we do this. We do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. First of all, you do a simple stitch around the edge. Right? So we stop a 1/2 inch from the top seam. Now with this machine, it's really nice. You press backwards lightly on the foot. The needle will come up, the foot will come up, but the needle stays down so you can pivot. Now you have to be careful. You don't want to press too hard, otherwise it will think it's the end of the stitch and then terminate the stitch. Now, we let go, the foot comes back down. Now I'm going to go ahead. Now something just happened again. No, I think it's okay. See, let me just double check. Something does not seem right. There's a lot, too much tension somewhere. Now let's see now. Let me think about this now. Oh, wait. Oh, whoa. We've got a problem. Oops. Aha. We do this thread there. Oh, we had a little problem here. Okay, let's try, see if that helps. Aha, okay. Something is causing that. That looks okay there. Something strange was happening to the tension. Oh, whoa, it got tangled up. Hold on now. Let's see. Aha, it got derailed. The thread, I think, got derailed. Is that what it was? Or is it? You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to clean the silicone grease. The silicone lubricant probably got on to the thread tensioner. But when I was sewing the plastic, I was using a silicone lubricant. So let's go ahead, take the tensioner apart carefully. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to move the camera over to here. This is the tensioner. I'm going to take this. I'm thinking that something's happened here or here. Let me just clean those. It's a small piece of fabric. I can find. Whoops. Okay. gone to here. But then I have some grease or something on there. Okay, hold on. We find some scrap fabric. This is here. Let's see now. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. The spindle is probably dirty. There's a spindle right there. If that gets dirty, the thread will bind on it. So let's try to clean that. So it goes to show you, anytime I use anything on the thread, like a lubricant or silicone, I've got to completely, and I only use that when I'm doing the plastic. But after sewing the plastic, I'm going to have to thoroughly clean the thread, areas where the thread touch on the machine. So let's see, I'm going to put, let's see, this goes back on. Excuse me. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to cut the thread here. Get the thread out of there. I'm going to pull this back. See now. That goes on like that. That goes on like that. Is that right? No, there's something not right. Oh, I know what. This, the lever, to hold up the foot. Okay, now this goes on like this. And let's see, this. Then this goes on. And that goes on. Is that still something? Then, let's see, and this goes on like that, and the spring goes on. That's how that, oh, something's not right. Hold on. This, hold on, let's see, the lever is there. Is this, maybe I had it wrong. I think that's what I did wrong. This goes like that. That's what I did wrong. Okay, then I take the second one. That goes like that. So the thread goes between those two. Then I take this here, like this. This is the first time, by the way, I took this part of the machine apart. So this like that, okay. And then we'll screw that on like this. And by the way, this is an industrial machine. So I'm pretty much on my own because there are no places here in Bellingham who can fix an industrial sewing machine. I talked to 2 bridal shops here, and they both told me that really you're on your own and you'd have to either call in from somebody in Seattle, and it costs them, I think, $400 just to drive up here to work on something. So, although on the other hand, the nice thing about an industrial machine, they're so heavy duty, you don't have to have them serviced every year like you do with a domestic, a home sewing machine, because they're made to run 24 hours a day. Because these are used in production. They're used in multiple shift production. They're on 24 hours a day in a production environment. Now, in a hobby environment like mine, no. I use them, maybe tonight I'll be using them for 2 hours, but maybe 8 hours a week versus 24 hours a day, and I run it slow. They run it a lot faster. So there's far less wear and tear, and what they tell me is that don't bother calling them for service unless there is definitely something wrong with it. So it's been 5 years, and this is the first time anything's gone wrong, and that's because I was using the silicone lubricant while working on raincoats, and I realized you have to really thoroughly clean everything if you do anything like that. So this is the tensioner, like a pre-tensioner. Let me just check that, tighten it. And that feels fairly smooth. I'm going to let the needle. That feels smooth now. Then the thread goes in here, and then it goes around the main tensioner, which I'm going to lift the foot so we can get in there, back up and around and down. That feels a lot better now. I think that was the problem. So let's go ahead and there we get this threaded now. Go to the upper hoop like this, like that. Okay, that is. Okay, now we get that down there. There. Now, here we are. Now, there's one more thing I forgot to do. You notice, and I'm going to move the camera a bit, there is a white nylon foot right there. That's used for the plastic, so the plastic doesn't stick to it. However, I need to replace that with the stainless steel foot that's normally on there. So I'm going to do that now. Because the nylon foot, even though it's easy, it doesn't stick with the plastic. Sometimes it will stick or drag with the fabric. So let's get that out of there. Like that. That goes in like that. Okay, so now we got this regular foot in there. The machine is threaded. I'm going to put the nylon foot away. Now to make sure that this is okay, I'm going to take a piece of unneeded fabric, some of the fabric that I had left over, and I'm going to see how it goes. So we've got everything replaced. Now the tensions will probably need to be adjusted. So let's see now. The way you do tension is that if you see the thread from the opposite side looping over the thread on this side, it means it's too tight. So if anything probably too loose now, let's tighten this a little bit. See what happens. Oh, it's still a little bit too loose. If it's too tight, it would cause the binding that you saw earlier. So let's bring that up some there. And see, right now you can start seeing the bottom thread. So we're going to loosen it a small amount, like that. It still should be loosened a little bit, like that. That's probably about it right there. So let's, by the way, just while I'm here, I'm going to show you the highest speed that this thing can do, very briefly. That's the highest speed that this machine can do. And I never do that in my work. Now, it looks like we got some interesting stuff happening here. So actually, look in the bottom, it seemed to me that towards the end, the top thread was too loose. So let's tighten the tension on the top a little bit. And things look okay there. Kind of look okay there. Actually, loosen that a tiny bit. All right. See, that looks fine. Okay, let's do. Now, also, it's interesting to note that the faster you go, sometimes these have to be readjusted. So let's do this again. At the speed I normally do, like that. See how that feels. Okay, that looks fine. We're going to leave it at that, leave everything alone, and try to pick up where we left off, which is the collar. And I'm going to cut out the existing stitches in the collar because they're too tight. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the stitches that I just did in the collar, knowing that the tension was way too tight. If I can, and try to pull it back open. I can. So right now, we pull the collar back open. Now we can leave this in here because we're going to leave that inside the collar to be folded back in. I don't have to take all the thread out. I'm just going to go in a tiny bit like that. Now we got a little bit, get a little bit more thread out of the needle like that. Let's see what happens now. Okay. That. Now, of course, the tensions can make a difference on different fabrics, too. You have to look out for that. Okay, that looks okay there. Now, also the stitch length can affect the tension, too. Now, looking at this, I'll check the bottom. A little bit too much. You can tell by feeling the stitch. That looks okay there, that looks okay there. Looks like we're okay there. Let me shorten that a little bit. Okay, do that, okay. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. That's what happens if you release it too soon. If you press the pedal back too far, you end up terminating the stitch. And that's what just happened. You just started a new stitch. No great loss. Okay, so now, here we are. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. The old stitches can be, that's fine, it can be inside. Now, we're going to let's go to the table. All right. After that excitement, okay. Now we're going to trim this a little bit. Now, let's see. Okay, now the corners get tricky. What I'm going to clip the corners, okay? But sometimes it's hard to stuff the corners into the corners. So now, what we're going to do now, we have to turn this inside out. Then we top stitch on the other side. So here's the inside. We're going to turn that inside out like that. All right, now here, turn it inside out, and now you see the good side is out. So now we're going to top stitch this. Back to the machine. Okay, now we'll just follow the edge, doing a simple top stitch. going about a little about half an inch in from the edge, like that. Maybe one more stitch, lift, turn, like that. But check the tension, everything looks fine there, okay? All right, let's see. Now we're going to the top, the outer edge of the collar. This simple top stitch to form the collar. Okay, now that's there. Get the other end, lift it, back down. Like that. Now we do down here. Now, that takes care of the top stitching. That's what it's going to look like. Right there. Now, the next step now is to run this through the serger to keep it closed. Now, before we do that, let's do one double check. Go back to the table. Now, let's measure this. Make sure this has got to be shorter than 18 inches. So, let's go to 10. Let's see. Like that. Let's see, right there. And 15 inches. That's good. So the length is fine. So we're just going to do a quick run with the serger. Now we'll keep it closed and keep the unraveling while I'm working on it. There's a fair amount of maneuvering that has to be done with the collar and the neckline. So although this will eventually be sewn in, it's still a good idea to serge it. So let's get that. Okay, so that's done. That's now serged. Okay. Now, we go back to here. All right. Okay, that's the collar. Okay. Now, the collar, of course, goes along the collar line. Something like that, okay? But we're not ready to do that yet. The next thing that has to be done is what's called the interfacing, okay? Interfacing, if I can find the right pattern piece, is right here, okay. Those aside, and we have to cut two of these pieces. Now, it doesn't really matter which fabric, because nobody's going to see them, okay? Because they're going to be inside the garment, but they create the stiffening of the collar area. So let's just check while we have a little break. Let's make sure everything's working fine. Let's see, that one, yeah, everything looks fine here. So now, let's find some suitable junk fabric that I don't care about. And that's going to be probably not that one, not that one. You know what? I'm going to let's use this white fabric here. Okay, we got enough of that. So let's set everything else aside so we won't accidentally cut into it. One of the worst things that can happen is to have something you just finished working on and you forget that it's on the table. You put something on top of it, and you start cutting the things on top of it, and you cut right through the thing you just spent hours of time working on very delicately. So let's see, what do we got here? This thing is, all right, let's see. So we're going to take this fabric, we're going to fold it over, because there's going to be two of these. Something like that, okay? And it is fraying real bad. Cut these off of here. Okay, so we gotta put that like that. That's folded over. Take this and put it on top like this. Okay. Something like that. Actually, we can go back, try to conserve some of the fabric. Something like that. Okay. Now bring that closer to me. Like that. There we are. Okay. So this has to get cut. It has to be serged. Let's see. It gets serged here. This is inside the garment, so really that does not have to be serged. And the collar doesn't have to be serged. It'll be serged here, and that's all. So let's go ahead and cut it first. Cut that. Okay, set that fabric aside. Bring this closer. These doesn't, by the way, these do not have to be really accurate because all you're doing is creating interfacing. You're not going to see these, okay? Here's the collar line, like that. Get rid of that. All right, now we got the two interfacing pieces. Now, the curved edge, which is going to be inside the garment but not sewn in a seam like this edge, this has to be serged along with the segment that's on the part of the shoulder. So let's go ahead and do that. So this pattern part can be set aside. We go to the serger, oops, right there. Is that right? Well, you look at something. Why the red is? Let's see, is that right? Okay, the serger is that one. Okay. Okay, now the serger microphone. This microphone goes on like that. Okay. All right. Now, very simple. We serge two edges of these. The bottom is, I know those are way too long, so I'm not going to bother to serge the bottom, as that will be serged when we finish the garment, and the bottom, the entire garment gets trimmed. We cut and serge, and then a hem will be made. So we're just going to do the collar, the shoulder, and oops, I have to make sure I've got the right one. Okay, I gotta make sure. That's right. This is the outside edge. Whoops. By the way, that's the fastest the serger can go. You notice it's a lot faster than a domestic or home serger. Again, these are used for production. Normally I go a lot slower because my pieces are smaller than serge. And I don't want to, the faster you go and the shorter the piece, the more opportunity there are for mistakes. Okay, that Although, and I just realized I did the yeah, let's see now. What did I do here? Yeah, I made a mistake. I serged the inside, but so what? The outside, like that. Here's the shoulder. We'll serge that like this. Okay, there. All right, that takes care of the interfacing pieces. All right. Yeah, these are the interfacing pieces. Now, the next thing we have to do is do the inside of the collar, which is the semicircle, which is this one here. Now, only one of these is made. Find a suitable place that we can cut here without too much waste. Be right there. So we're going to take this right here, like that. So, okay, we cut that like that. Okay, now, I'm going to check one thing now. We have to be really careful. Just had a, let's see now. Yeah. Just had a compliment on the chat, so I had to respond to that. So right now there's only one of these, and yikes, we've got to be really careful now. We're almost an hour and a half, and the problem is Bellingham television gets a little antsy if a program is much longer than an hour and a half. So I'm going to cut and serge the inside collar piece. Then I'm going to have to stop for the evening. There'll probably be another session. Today is, oh my God, today's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. I may do the next session later tonight. I do have an online chorus rehearsal tonight. Do that. Then I'm going to leave all the junk set up, and we'll just continue from where we left off. Just like they say on 1960s television, to be continued. Same time, same channel. You've probably seen those. So okay. All right, get that folded, and we'll set that aside. So here, okay, we're going to set this pattern piece aside. Here is the inside collar. We serge the outside, and we serge the ends, which are the shoulders. The inside's the collar, we don't care about that. So here we go. Let's see, we go back down for that. We flip the microphones over like that. All right. Whew. Okay, now. All right, that's the outside. Okay, that's there, okay. Okay, we do that. Stitch that like that. All right, there. Okay, so we got shoulder, outside collar, shoulder, remembering the inside collar is going to be stitched into a seam. So we're all set there. So let's try to lay the whole thing out quickly before we leave. Okay, here. Okay. No. Okay, let's get to the right camera first of all. Back here, go to the right microphone like that. Okay, now here is the shirt. All right, and now, actually, the way this works, let's do this. This is the inside or the wrong side of the shirt, okay? Here's the collar, the yoke, the back is here, the shoulders are here. Now, the collar will be sewn inside like this. It'd be about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance around the neck for the collar. Then, on the outside, then sewn. Then the next thing that gets sewn are the interfacing pieces. Oh, I forgot to cut this thread off here. All right, so this gets sewn. Let's see, how does this work? Okay, this interfacing gets sewn like this, okay? This is the front right here, but it gets sewn with a 1/2 inch seam allowance down here. Actually, bring this whole thing up so you can see it. Like that. Then come here. No, not wrong one. Okay. We do the same thing here. And now, like this. Then the top thing's off. This is the inside collar. That would get sewn like this. So you get a 1/2 inch seam allowance around here and down the front. Okay. And same thing here. Now this would get folded back and then sewn in. And that's why this does not have to be serged. That's why serging this was a mistake. Same here. This gets sewn to the collar, around the collar like that. Then the back of the collar is the last thing that goes on. It goes over the collar itself gets sewn first, okay, like that. This was sandwiched, the collar would be between this and the front of the shirt here, the same. Then on the back of the neck, you get the neck, inside neck, collar, and yoke. And around these sides, you got inside neck, interfacing, then collar, then the front. So when you turn it inside out, the collar, the interfacing will conceal the overlap from the inside of the collar. So it doesn't really matter where that ends up. That's basically where we're going to pick up when we continue on. So let's kind of very gently fold this back like this so it won't fall off. So let's see. We go to the main camera, which is camera 1, like that. And then we hit the main microphone, which is that. Hello? All right. So I think that's it. It's over a half. It's just about an hour and a half. I forgot. Bellingham limits me to an hour and a half or an hour and 59 minutes, and I don't want to take chances. So perhaps later tonight, maybe tomorrow, but tomorrow's going to be a challenge. I'm going to pick up where I left off on this shirt. So we are actually on pretty good time with this shirt, despite the fact that we had a problem with the machine, a little bit of a setback. We're actually making good time. This is perhaps the thing that takes the longest time is to work with the collar and the yoke and the interfacing. But now we get those cut, the collar put together. That should go together fairly quickly. So, till then, see you all later.